The Stylist is now streaming on Arrow Video channel if you want to check it out, and I suggest checking it out. It's a really great thriller. I wasn't really too sure what I was getting into when I put this one on, and was quite pleasantly surprised to see it was a kind of throwback to those early 90s movies like Single White Female, you know, where somebody kind of attached themselves to somebody else and disrupted their life, that kind of thing. In this one, we are introduced to Claire, who is a stylist and a hairdresser who's great at her job, who has a fascination with hair, who has some anxiety and inability to deal with social situations and feels isolated quite a lot throughout the movie. And I think that's the real crux of it. She's someone who's suffered abandonment, who is alone, who's struggling to deal with their lack of social nature, and has very slight, or maybe massive, sociopathic tendencies. As we see in a very early scene in the movie, it doesn't really hide it very much. It's on the poster as well. Claire has a fascination with hair. When one of her clients comes in out of town, she kind of has a chit chat to her, talking about her, gives her a glass of wine. It's only these two people that's in the hairdressers. When all of a sudden the woman passes out, and Claire proceeds to scalp her, taking her whole top of her head off and wearing it like a wig. And that kind of leads into this kind of character who is uncomfortable in her own skin, who doesn't really like the person she is, or finds it's hard to really be social, outward, and comfortable in their own personality. And by putting on these scalped wigs that she makes, she's becoming someone else. She can escape from her own anxiety and problems for a little while. Olivia, played by Brea Grant, comes into the movie as someone who desperately needs help because she's got a wedding coming up. Her stylist has flaked out and she needs someone else. But she starts to include Claire within her life, inviting her over for drinks, giving her a little bit more attention than possibly they should, because they're not really friends, but they're kind of having a start of a friendship. And Claire just latches onto this. You know, this is something great. This is someone who wants to be part of her life, not just because of her ability to do the hair, which is part of it. But she starts to push the boundaries, starts to follow people, stalking them, breaking into their house, taking clothes and wearing them, modelling themselves after it, crossing boundaries and lines throughout it. And it's really kind of fun watching this character. I think Najarra Townsend, who's, I hope I'm getting that name right, is utterly magnetic as the lead in this movie as Claire. She gives a towering performance of a woman who is on the brink of a breakdown, who's struggling to deal with her own psychosis, who knows what she's doing is wrong, wants to pull away from it, but ultimately has this compulsion that is forcing her to do these horrific things. I loved The Stylist. I loved following our protagonist, who is the antagonist of the piece. Normally in these kind of movies back in the 90s when we were getting them, you'd always follow the person who was being wronged. Now we're following the person who's doing the wrongs, and it's interesting to see the aspects of what she's doing, how she's feeling guilty about certain things, and it's all delivered through that amazing performance that we see. And it really is front and centre of the movie, and it really is the most driving force and compelling thing within the film, that amazing performance. And where Townsend takes it is just terrific. I've no doubt we're going to see much more of this woman. And we've got the counterpoint of Brea Grant, who is always amazing as well, who is trying to be friendly with Claire, but is ultimately getting those warning signs, feeling a little bit uncomfortable about this. And the movie, as it ramps up to its finale, went exactly where I expected it to, but where I also wanted it to go. It went to that place which I just loved, because it's a kind of story where you're wondering how it's going to finish, but ultimately it did exactly what I was hoping it was going to do, which is one of those weird things where I wasn't really surprised. I was more thankful that it went that full hog and just delivered that final scene that I was expecting. The Stylist is a terrific movie. You could sign up to Arrow Video for like 30-day free trial, check it out. It's more than worth checking out. It's a terrific film with amazing performances. I really like The Stylist. I'd love to know your thoughts on it. Let me know in the comment box below, and I'll see you next time on Man v Film.